Alright everybody, we're going to take a look at our vector graphics software that is Inkscape, and we're going to see what we need to do to create a poster like this one here that can be cut out using our laser cutter. Files created with Inkscape can also be used on our CNC router, our plasma cutter, and the vinyl cutter. Whenever we start a new project in Inkscape, we're going to have a page that looks like this. We know we've got this workspace in the middle that's going to represent our project, but we don't really know what that size is. We won't know that size until we come up here to File and click on Document Properties. The default settings are typically going to show us our document properties in millimeters. We want to switch that over to inches so it makes a little more sense for the sizes we're accustomed to working with. Let's go ahead and change this to 22 inches by 14 inches. You can make that portrait mode or landscape mode. That is going to be completely up to you if you want 22 wide and 14 high, or 14 wide and 22 high. Once we change this, we can see our page here now looks a little bit different, and if we zoom out, we can still see we've got loads of workspace out here that we can utilize. I strongly recommend using a mouse whenever you are working in Inkscape. The touchpad on a laptop will work, but it makes things much more difficult. When you're using the mouse, the scrolling wheel in the middle will help us navigate much quicker. If we just roll that wheel without pressing any buttons on the keyboard, we're going to move up and down on the page as I'm doing here. If we hold down the shift button and roll that wheel, we're going to go side to side. So it's just pressing the shift button on the keyboard. If we hold down the control button on the keyboard and roll that wheel, we're going to zoom in and out. But it is important to understand that we're going to zoom in and out to wherever our arrow is, wherever the cursor is on the screen. It's pretty easy to get lost on the page if we start zooming out into a corner somewhere that's way off of our workspace. So now we've got a page that's going to represent our poster. We've got a 22 by 14 inch page, and we're going to start adding components that will make up our finished product. We're looking for 3 different components here. We want to have some sort of a text element, something that we type out here using our text tool. We're going to want a picture that kind of matches our theme, and we're going to want some type of a border that our laser will cut out and finish our project in the end. We'll take a look at a couple examples here. I think we're going to take a look at how to build this exact poster, and this is another example of what can be created using this software. But we got to get used to our basic tools first. On the left hand side of the page, we're going to find the majority of the drawing tools that we need. You're going to be back and forth between the node selector and the standard selection transform objects arrow pretty often. We can use our square or rectangle tool, our circle tool, the polygon star tool, any of these pens and pencils, and we'll take a look at our paint bucket. Most of the other tools won't really be utilized for this project. We may look at those at a later date. Across the bottom of the screen, we've got all of our colors. This part's going to be pretty important because we cannot have colors where we shouldn't have colors, and we have to use red specifically whenever we are going to have things cut out on the laser. We're going to begin by using our text tool. To use our text tool, we're going to create a text box just like we would in many of our other software programs, such as Google Docs or Microsoft Word. It's a pretty simple process of selecting the tool, drawing out a text box, and then typing your letters. We're going to type invent, create, innovate. I've got some text on my screen. However, it's pretty small, it's hard to see, and I don't think that I like that font very much. We can adjust that size in our font size box up here. This drop down box will come down and we can pick a different number. We can also just type numbers into this box. One of the easiest ways to do this, however, is going to be just selecting your arrow tool and then dragging this box out to whatever size you need it to be. I need to make my font a little smaller. Alright. So I've got my text on the screen now. Anything that we create, whether it's a shape, a line, text, or a picture that we paste in from the internet, it's going to have a fill color and a stroke color. The fill is the color that, just like it sounds, fills in the space. The stroke color is the outline. If we look down here in the bottom corner of the screen, right now this box is telling us that our fill color is black. You can see that up on the screen. We've got everything filled in with black. It says our stroke color is none. There is not one selected. In order to change these colors, it's a pretty simple process. To change the fill color, I simply click on whatever color I might want to change things to. To change the stroke color, I'm going to have to hold down the Shift key and then pick my color. So we can see now I've got a blue fill color and a red outline. For the laser to cut our projects out, it's going to be looking for a red outline with no fill. So I'm going to come over here and get rid of my fill. At the far left side, we have a box with a white box with a red and black X. If we click that X, that is the no color option. So that's going to make everything go away that we had there. If we hold down the Shift button and click that same box, our outlines will go away. Anytime that we do something that we might not want to do, for example, taking away our outlines, we can press Control Z and it will undo whatever our last step was. We can press Control Z multiple times and it will take us a step back each time. If we need to take a step back forward, we can press Control and Y. Now I've got some text here and I'm probably ready to add a picture. We'll come back and alter the shape of this text later. In order to put a picture in here, our easiest option is going to be searching Google for a picture that we like and simply copying and pasting it in here. I searched for engineering sign since I'm creating an engineering sign, and I saw a few that I liked and decided to go with this wrench inside a gear picture. I can simply right click on that picture and select copy image. At this point, I'm ready to add that picture into Inkscape. Simple process of pasting that picture in. We can right click and select paste. You can come up here to edit and drop down to paste. When I have this picture pasted in, I can't quite do anything with it just yet. Whenever I click on my colors, we'll see that nothing really changes on the picture. We can adjust the size of it, but it's not actually a vector graphic yet. It's only a picture from the internet. In order to create this on Inkscape, for it to be traced out with our software, we need to right click on this image and select Trace Bitmap. When we do that, this menu will pop up and we want to make sure that our live preview box is checked. When we check that box, it will show us a little preview here of what it's looking to trace out. If this image is too light, we can increase this threshold number and we'll see things get a little darker up until the point that the entire screen goes black. If it's too dark, we can decrease this number until we get everything just the way we want it. If we go too light here, we start seeing our watermark in the middle. We don't want that. So we're going to keep increasing this number to right about here. Now when I click OK, a lot of people think that it didn't work, it didn't do anything. We clicked OK, but it didn't trace it. It did trace. It put the new one directly over top of the picture that we had in here. So my new traced version is sitting right here over top of the picture, and when I click my mouse and drag it, now we can see that we've got a picture that where the white spaces used to be, there's no color at all, and I've got a black fill color. If I drag this original picture over top of my project, we see that it's still just a picture from the internet. So we've got a few things we are going to have to change for this picture to work on the laser. First, when we look in the bottom corner, we can see that we've got an all black fill and no stroke color again. We're going to get rid of that fill color by simply clicking the no color box and then hold down the shift key, and let's get our red outline back. Our picture is looking pretty good now, but towards the bottom we've got this text that we're probably not going to want in our finished project. There's a pretty easy way to get rid of that. It's going to involve breaking this picture apart. We can break complete pictures apart, or we can break single lines apart. We do that by pressing the Shift button, holding that down, Shift and then B, then hold down Control and Shift and press K. As I did that, we can see that what was one big box is now a bunch of separate boxes. Each component has become its own element. And we can come down here, select this text, and press the delete button. It is now gone. So we've got our text, we've got a picture, and the last element we would want to put in here is going to be a border. We can use any of our shapes for a border. Since the poster is generally rectangular in shape, we're going to use our rectangle tool. If I pick my rectangle tool and click and drag my mouse across, it's going to draw a rectangle. If you notice, in the top corner here we've got a square, in the bottom corner we've got a square, but in the top right hand corner there's a circle. If we grab this circle, that will round our corners over. If we want them round, we can drag this down and leave it. If we don't want them round, we can put it back up to the top, and now we'll have perfect 90-degree corners. Drag this down just a little bit. Anytime I want to stop using any drawing tool, I can press the Escape button. Now I've got text, a border, and a picture. I'm going to select everything on my page to give these elements all the same line size. To change our line sizes, we're going to look at the Fill and Stroke menu. That's the one that's right here on my screen. If it does not appear on your screen, you'll find that under the Object tab. Come up here to Object, click Object, come down to Fill and Stroke, and that's going to give you this menu. Under the Stroke Style tab, we'll have a line width and our units on this side. We want inches. And while we're working, I would recommend keeping these at 0.01. We'll have to change that before we can actually print our project, but it gives us a good place to start. The last thing we're going to want to do is get everything lined up the way we want it to be on our page. If I click my text box, we can see that everything is highlighted, but if I click off of my text box, we can only pick one thing or the other. If we want to pick multiple items at the same time, we're going to have to hold down the Shift key whenever we click on them. I'm going to group this item back together. We broke this apart earlier. Now I'm going to press Control G for group. Control G to group. Now if I hold down my Shift button and click the text box, I have both items selected. I want to make sure that both of these are centered on the page. I'm going to do that with my Align and Distribute tab. That's right here on my page, also found under the Object category in our top menu. Come down to Align and Distribute. We'll see we've got a bunch of options here, and if I click this one, it tells us it's going to center on the vertical axis. We saw that the picture just moved over. Now these two things are centered. I'm going to press Control and G to group those together. Now if I press my Shift button again, I can click my border, center the entire project on the horizontal axis and on the vertical axis. Everything is pretty well centered. We're going to stop this video at this point and look at some problems that we may run into and ways to solve those in the next screencast.